Hello,
Awesome.
everybody. Welcome to another highlight interview. Today, we have a special guest because this is one of our favorite clients, Mr. Marques Pizarro. Did I say the name correctly?
Marcus Bizarre, that's correct. And I thought you were going to say favorite clients. I was like, oh, favorite.
One of our favorite clients. Yep, you're right.
Thank you.
So, Marques actually has scaled his agency from 0 to 10 to 15K in around a year. And he actually has hired a couple of people from Feva. So tell us, man, how do you get started into entrepreneurship in general?
Yeah, so back when I was in middle school, right now I'm 20 years old, just to give you my background. And back in middle school, my business partner and I were best friends, and still best friends and business partners to this day. We just been interested in entrepreneurship, let alone marketing, joined business classes here and there, loved the winning competitions, right? It boosts our ego, whatever. But we wanted to apply it to real businesses and real people. We wanted to get in on this as soon as possible. And full disclosure, the first person we saw for programs was Iman Gaji because he was our age. You know, if you heard of him before, we just resonated with him because he knew kind of our demographic. So that was our first step into the agency space. And in the first year, we were just helping in our local area of Seattle, Washington, dealerships, restaurants, dentistries. But then after that year, I have a background in personal training, and I know the impact people have in that industry on people's not only health, but also their lives and their identity. Long story short, I trained one of my friends, good friends in high school, and his identity shifted. Was probably the most fulfilling things I felt ever in my life, because he went from someone who was 40 pounds overweight and lost that and was able to ask his girlfriend to prom, or a girl to prom who's now his girlfriend. I think the muscles helped him a lot. But in all seriousness, that's where we started to grow, and that's where we've solely been in the fitness industry for the past 4 or 5 years now. And so yeah, that's the whole startup of our company and where we've been and how I got into entrepreneurship with my business partner.
So would you say you have 4 years into the agency space, or do you try other business ventures besides that?
That is a great question. I've always tried different ventures. 2 years, 3 years probably into the space. You know, I was in, let's say, affiliate marketing. I was doing a little bit of e-commerce on the side, videography. I know my business partner is huge on that. So yeah, we were doing little things, dabbling in, until 2 years or a year and a half ago, we got serious during the COVID part, because that allowed us to just focus more on the agency and actually landing client after client.
Gotcha. So you started your agency in 2020 during COVID, right?
Going just agency, yes. Around like late 2019, around that time, where we're like, okay, let's just put other businesses aside and focus on making this a cash cow machine or an actual business.
And how are the challenges? Because I know that during COVID, most small businesses were closing. So how do you prospect clients those first 5 to 6 months, which were decisive, right?
It was really tough, especially for gyms, because they had to close down. You get people in close quarters. So honestly, we didn't do much in terms of prospecting to find people. We kind of just grew our brand, put content out there to help people at least survive the pandemic. But it wasn't until people reopened, at least in my area around June 2020, around that time, where we started to look into prospecting again. And I want to mention someone who's helped us so much in just creating a new dimension to our thinking about agency space is John Danes. He helped us really see what we need to get going in order to move the needle forward in terms of getting profit, in terms of getting clients. And that was prospecting. And that's where he actually referred one of his old VAs to us for part-time work. And that's where, we felt really good, because we have another team member. We know what we need to get done to get clients. And that was around summer of 2020.
Gotcha. So tell me something. When you were not prospecting, do you have like another job, anything to get a source of income, or were you all in already in the agency?
Well, we were all in practically. I did have another job actually. I worked at the YMCA, which I loved. That was probably my first and only job that I'll ever love. Outside of the agency space, I don't consider that a love or a job.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, during that time, of course, I couldn't work in person, so I was on employee benefits, is that what it's called, back in the COVID times? Yeah. So I was doing good off of that, reinvesting it into the business, the whole thing. And yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I should have got a job in hindsight 2020 before COVID, and then collect maybe some benefits, right? That would have been great, because I didn't have a job. I was living off the agency, and man, it was tough. Wasn't it tough? 2020, that first half of 2020. But yeah, back then. So were you always, when you were in the agency space, were you always in the fitness niche, or did you try and dabble into some other niches?
Oh man, so the way I can best say it is I want to stay in the fitness industry, especially like the second half of 2020, but we weren't seeing results. And it kind of made me think like maybe, we should hop into e-commerce, because there's a lot of shops there that are lucrative, making a lot of monthly recurring revenue, and we can charge them a pretty retainer. Where in the fitness industry, you might come across, especially in COVID, people who need to save or think they need to save, right? So that was really hard. I didn't want to switch, but thank God we didn't. But it was always crossing my mind, like maybe dentistry is good. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to what am I truly passionate about? Because at the end of the day, if I dread going to work, helping in dentistry, it's not going to turn out the way I want it to long term. So I thought about it, but not in the brightest sense, if I can say.
Exactly. And I can tell you, man, dentistry is dentist agency niche is not the way to go, because there's going to be a lot of gatekeepers. Prospecting is going to be tough. Appointment setting is going to be tough. Even if you secure the appointment with the dentist, you might then call and say, oh no, and somebody else answers and say, oh, he's with a patient. And maybe it's not true. Maybe the person doesn't have any clients, but they kind of hide between layers and receptionist and a lot of stuff. So definitely, I'm glad you didn't switch that niche. It's great. So how does scaling come into place? How do you get from 0 to 10, 15K? How did that journey look like?
Yeah, so let's see, where do I want to pick up now? Early 2021, we started getting ground, especially late Q1, around March to April. We landed consecutively like 3 new clients for only like 1,000, not the hardest. And this is like one-time fees, so they're not the hardest to get, but it was a good starting point for our agency again to run our operations and stuff. And that's where we're like, okay, we're picking up some ground, and that's where we invested into Joel Kaplan's course for Agency Lab, and that really gave us a lot of ground, a lot of structure to our business. Obviously, we grew a little bit over the last summer. And that's where Omir and I got into touch about, having outsourced those day-to-day tasks like prospecting on Instagram, prospecting on Facebook, and stuff like that. And that really, overall my level of thinking increased, but in this certain aspect of outsourcing it to VAs and such, it has really helped me in terms of like starting to see myself as the owner rather than someone who's spending 5 hours doing those, prospecting stuff that a lot of us don't live and want to do. At least I know in the beginning you should, but at least for like the rest of our agency careers.
Yeah, man. So ideally you want to hire a VA from the beginning, right? But a lot of people don't have the time or don't have the money to actually do it, so they are just busy doing it themselves. So how do you transition from prospecting yourself or with your business partner versus handling this to a virtual assistant? Because a lot of people don't know how to delegate, and especially when agency owners who are starting out, they pretty much are workers. An agency owner who is starting out is pretty much a very low paid employee. That's why it is. You're cold calling, you are doing cold emails, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing calendar management, calendar appointments. All these things are not a CEO level, right? Because you're not there yet. When you're starting, you're simply not there yet. So how do you how do you need to switch your mentality, your mindset from being just a worker to a CEO and then to delegate it to somebody else? How does that look like?
Yeah. The number one thing is for me, when I said I hired that VA that was part-time, I'm a true testament of someone who just didn't know how to delegate or at least lead someone to do the job. The number one thing I believe is simply because I had little experience in what I was delegating. So the number one thing if I can give anyone a lesson is master at least knowing what to do, so that of course you can lead the VA. Always look over the shoulder and make sure they're doing it correctly. At that time, I was not knowing hey, I don't know if you should reply back to this person that way, or how I would reply back to that person anyways. And it kind of led to weary results, inconsistency. So the number one thing is mastering prospecting. And that also means getting knowledge from other people who are above that level, who if I was back at 0, I would get as much knowledge from people at 10 or even plus, and ask them hey, what do you do for prospecting and what do you tell your VAs? That way you can get a great confidence in what you're saying to your VAs. Now, in terms of going from a worker to CEO, I believe the hardest part, which you guys have helped me the most, which was finding the right people, is that's one of the hard parts. The other part is just setting expectation from that worker mode to management comes into play, because now you're setting expectations, you're holding them accountable, and you're making sure you're hitting them, we're all hitting the milestones together. So yeah, it's really just to communicate wisely, and of course finding the right people to do it for you.
Sure. And do you think it's more about finding the right person, or do you think it's more about building the right systems and training the person so really anybody can do it?
Great question. It really depends on the job. VA, I would lean more towards anyone can do it. Of course, preferably if you find someone who's professional at it, has done it before, who knows what they're doing, plus they can give you suggestions, which I always am open to from my VAs. I'm open for it. Yeah. So you can definitely train. Now, if it's media buying and, maybe client success management, those other positions you see in the agency space, I highly think you want to find the right people for that. In terms of their personality, in terms of their values and your agency's values, I think that's for actually anyone. I make sure the VAs understand what our values are to a T. And yeah, so it really depends. But in terms of VAs, people helping you with the day-to-day maintenance tasks, I really believe it's about training them and making sure that they are able to do the job, because it's how you teach them, it's how you train them.
Gotcha. And let me ask you this: what were the main 2 or 3 things that you changed from when going from 0 to 10, 15K?
I would say it's setting more appointments is the number one thing. When I set more appointments, I get more opportunities, more experience for me. For me personally, I'm the salesperson in my agency, so that gives me experience in handling objections, or knowing what to say to gym owners and personal trainers, right? Knowing their lingo, as well as just simply the overall result, which is getting clients. So that's what really helps a lot, is setting appointments. And that's where, I will say it again, VAs come into play, because they help you set appointments so that you can focus on calls, other channels of setting appointments. The second thing is, identity. I honestly think that should have been the first thing I said, because at this moment in my life, I always thought being 10K was great and that it's the dream outcome. But you want to expand your thinking, and because when my identity shifted, it allowed me to go beyond what I thought I was capable of. So mindset's a huge thing. I believe it's 80% of the game in the agency space, because we all have these preconceived knowledge or biases of how things should be done, but also what we believe we should do. And that's limiting. That can be self-sabotaging to grow the agency to where it should be and what it could be. The third thing I would say is leadership. And this is something that I am taking note of this year as like one of the big things to grow my agency after 15K to like 30K, 50, and so on. That's my goal in this agency this year, is leadership and being able to communicate not just what needs to be done in terms of tasks, but also the culture, communicating the values, communicating kind of the morale of the team, motivation, and what needs to be done, and that we can all do this not just one-on-one, but together. And so that's the third thing I think that helps an agency like mine get from 0 to 5 to 10 to 15K plus.
Right. So besides the appointments, you think also it's mindset. I agree a lot on the identity shift, because really you're a different person. Like when you are 0 versus when you're 10K, man, it's huge. That first milestone is huge. I admire anyone really who reaches that milestone within a year. I think you did it within a year, right? Around that 12 months.
Yeah, I would say honestly 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah, but after Q1 was really our big shift. So
sure. But do you consider, like, when you're starting entrepreneurship, those 2 years, do you think that's also part, or would you not count that and just say, okay, it was 8 months? Honestly.
I would say ever since my business partner and I started our agency is what really matters. I mean, I honestly think everything that I've been through, even outside of the agency space, has been like a brick laid on a brick. Little things I've learned, from like copywriting to how to speak to someone and network. These things really matter, and it just adds up to your confidence, your level of expertise, and how you see yourself. And so I give credit to everything that's happened prior to that 8-month period where, the slingshot was let go and things just started moving forward. So yeah, if I can give you the answer, I definitely give a lot of credit to what I've done in the past. I don't think it's just that 8-month period that was the big overnight whatever.
Right. And how did your VA help you? Like, what was we could say the one thing that your virtual assistant did to help you in that scaling process?
Being consistent. Honestly, like when it comes down to prospecting, it's a matter of being consistent and there every day. Now, of course, for me, at least, I tell them, don't work on the weekends. I'll take care of it. So on the weekday, they're very consistent. And the thing about that is that it allows them to understand, what can improve the results, even if I'm not there. The other thing is, of course, the result itself. Right? If there's inconsistency, especially in prospecting, it really shows at the end of the result for like revenue wise. Consistency is the big thing. The second thing, remind me your question again. That's a big thing, but remind me the question.
No, I think it's great. I think you answered perfectly. So before we end it, and we'll wrap it up, what tips would you give to an agency owner who is either at 0 or struggling or just can't do anything to hit the 10K mark?
Number one, my from 0 to 10K plus, I would honestly say, just don't get stuck in a lot of thinking, analysis paralysis. Should I do this? Should I try this? In the beginning, I honestly recommend that you should just go in there, try as many things. And one of my favorite things I learned from a guy named Jared Curry is to fail fast. In the beginning, you want to fail fast, get that experience. If anything, it is experience, because even wins are experiences to me. Like maybe I could have won a little bit harder, or like won something even more in terms of like landing more clients or whatever. So that's my first thing, is take action, and you have nothing to lose, especially in this business. It's very profitable, especially when you don't have a team member at that moment at 0K. Like all you need is probably your phone, which you probably paid for already, who knows, a certain service, and a certain knowledge base on marketing, and just get out there and take action, right? That's my first thing. The second thing is I would highly recommend is get into some sort of way to improve your mindset, because at the end of the day, you're only going to limit yourself in this business if you just keep saying like, oh, I'm not worthy of having 5 clients, or I'm not worthy of getting to 10K a month. Those things really will hurt you, but it can also help you thrive, because once you start believing you should be at 100K, you embody that, you show that to people on your calls, you show that to your team, and it really just boosts everyone, especially yourself. So that's my second thing. The third thing is I would say just keep being open-minded, and especially this space, in the agency space. There's so many things that are changing. I'll give you a practical example that we are starting TikTok as a service, and it's a huge thing that's not only helping our agency, but our clients. And if I am dogmatic that we should just stick to Facebook and Instagram, it's probably gonna hurt the business long-term, or even right now. So just stay open-minded to learning stuff, especially when it comes to online marketing. Things are changing. And overall, just learn about leadership so you can build the team. Well, learn how to just learn how to build yourself so that you can sustain that, right? Or again, go above that. But at the end of the day, this is really like a growth building business where you're not just growing your client, not even your business, but also yourself. And of course, before you hire a VA, before you hire anyone, you must be able to lead yourself and know that you can help or lead a team and grow a business. So those are my 3 lessons to someone who's just starting out, or at least wants to get to that 10K plus mark.
Sure, and I'm gonna add here, being super biased, but I wanna say this: hire a virtual assistant from Fava, from Amir. That will be number 4, right?
Yeah, let me tell you guys, they just helped me so much. Like, there's probably a lot of things I will not mention that I could have mentioned if I didn't have them. Like, my stress has gone down so much. Like, I can't even think of like how I was. It's crazy. It's funny to me. Like, last year, I was doing prospecting for like 5 hours, and I'm like looking at myself today. I'm like, how the hell did I survive that? I mean, it's just delegating the time, and like it allowed me to really, again, change my identity. And just going back to apply to you guys helped me find the right people. I mean, your process and your guys' guidelines are so simple. It's so worth it. Probably like a 10 times ROI positive return, because I would have been stuck finding the wrong people, having headaches, finding the right people, leading to bad sales calls or whatever. These guys are not just doing their job, but we all love our jobs. The cool thing about the VAs I hired, by the way, is they're all my age. They're like 22, 21, I'm 20. And so we have this culture, of course, I don't care what age, but at least for them, we all understand, like, we're at this point where we're still growing ourselves, which is actually one of our core values. So other than that, you guys have always been checking in on us, making sure that the VAs are doing their job, but also that they're fine. And that's what I love about you guys. You guys actually truly care about not only the growth of the team, but also our agency and the VAs that you guys give us. So thank you for that.
Man, that was insightful. I appreciate you so much for this interview. And whoever's watching this interview, please listen to Marques, because he's done it. He's already hit the 6-figure mark, and I'm sure he's gonna definitely get there, and more, ideally 30K, 50K. Man, I'm sure you're gonna get it. Oh yeah, definitely with that mindset, 100%.
Yeah, I hope to have a second interview when I'm at like 100K, and you guys have helped me with like all my team members.
I actually interviewed Jared. Talking about Jared Curry, I interviewed Jared Curry. That was like 4 or 5 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Believe it. It's crazy, right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. So thanks for everyone who is watching, and let's see everybody in the next interview.
Take care.